Welcome everyone to the Maronite faith. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about processions. Why do we do processions in our liturgy and in our church and in our feasts? If you are brought up in the Maronite faith, you will realize that we do it a lot. And basically, any excuse for us to do a procession, you see a procession happening. We look at Christians around us, especially if you live in the Western world, and you see that they don't do as many processions as we do. So we must have a reason as Maronites, why do we do a lot of processions? And basically, what do they mean? So let's see first if the procession is a biblical thing. In the Bible, it's mentioned a lot. It represents a joy. Every time that there was a reason for Israel to celebrate, they will come with a procession and enter into the temple. In Psalm 42, for example, it says, "I remember this as I pour out my heart, how I walked with many, leading the festive procession to the house of God with joyful and thankful shouts." In Psalm 45, verse 15, it says, "They are bubbling with joy as they walk in procession and enter the royal palace." Psalm 68 says, "People have seen your procession, God, the procession of my God, my King, in the sanctuary." So basically there is the procession of God, the procession of my God, my King, in the sanctuary, and many other mentions in the Old Testament and some in the New Testament about the procession. So the procession itself represents an act of joy, and that's why we do it usually at a great feast. So say, for example, it's the feast day of the resurrection. We have a procession for the resurrection. We resurrect the cross with the white drape basically on it within the church to celebrate the resurrection of the Lord. When we have the Palm Sunday, we have a big procession to represent how the children went into welcomed Christ into Jerusalem. We also welcome the Christ into our church during the Palm Sunday with a beautiful liturgical act that I'm sure you're all used to. And also, if it's a feast day, we carry the icon of that saint and we process it around the church to celebrate the feast of that saint. But mainly, our main processions are really for the Eucharist. We have a lot of Eucharistic processions, basically to represent what the Psalm said. I see God entering into the sanctuary. So we basically process the Eucharist, and we also process the cross a lot, where in many of our processions, the cross always leads the procession. So why is it? Why is it that we do concentrate in our liturgy as Maronites on the processions? The reason goes back to our history. Our history was filled, as many of you know, with a lot of persecution. So much so that we could not at certain places handle the persecution anymore. It was either we're going to die or we have to leave the place that we are in. Many times we had to leave, pick up all our stuff, empty the village and go to a safer place. And as we are leaving to this safer place, what can we take with us from the church? Can we carry the bell? Can we carry the stones? Can we carry the benches? No way. What we can carry out of this church is the cross, the Eucharist, and the icon of the saint that this church has represented. Usually it used to be churches of the Virgin Mary, mainly, as you know, many of our churches are dedicated for the Virgin Mary. So basically we used to carry these three elements: the icon of that church, the cross from the altar, and the Eucharist, and walk to a safer place. As people were walking, they would actually sing the psalms, sing hymns, pray for God for protection until they reach a safer place. And once they reached this safer place, they would remember how they arrived safely to this place in this big procession that they came through, and would repeat this procession again and again, thanking basically the Lord for his protection and the saints for their prayers as we were moving from one place to the next. So as we do procession next time in your church, as you do the procession, remember your ancestors. Some of their processions were filled with fear, with anxiety, but they put all their trust in God, and their trust in God got them to a safe shore. And that's why we still do have, we can still practice our faith in here in the East because of our ancestors surviving the persecutions. And through their faith, through their trust in God, they have survived it. And they celebrated it with a procession. So our processions, it's not something that we look at, oh, say, look, here we go, another procession. We are actually ought to say, a procession, it's time for me to rejoice that I can still celebrate my faith. It's time for me to rejoice that I can still freely practice my liturgy and say to God, I can pray for you and I can be your son, basically. I can practice my faith, my Maronite faith freely. This is a way for me to express it through the procession. So I do hope I was able to explain what the procession is really about and why do we do it. If you have any question, do not hesitate to email me on askamaronite@hotmail.com. All one word, ask a Maronite, Maronite, @hotmail.com, and I will be glad to answer your questions. I wish you all a beautiful day and God bless you always.